While growing up, I had been to Colorado several times on family vacation to hike the mountain trails and to look for wildlife. The experiences we had of stepping into a wilderness far from the sounds of any civilization was both peaceful and thrilling, almost sacred. Hence, it wasn't surprising when my dad and I drove to Colorado for a week in Manitou Springs. This was during the fall season when all the leaves had dropped and the air was crisp, but the first snow had not yet come. Our lodging for the week was a small cabin with all the luxuries of central heating and running water. After checking in and unpacking, we planned out 4 hikes to take in the surrounding area. One northwest of the town, one near Pikes Peak, one near Mueller State Park, and the final one on a dirt road we would drive down as far as the truck would let us until finding a good place to pull over and hike. This last one would be my favorite. Safety was very important, so we studied the maps a good while each evening to prepare for the day ahead. We would look at the maps again in the morning to refresh our memory, and then hike knowing exactly which direction we were going at all times. Looking ahead at the trail map near Pikes Peak confused us, because a service road running east to west was dotted with many motels and local restaurants. We decided to avoid this somehow developed area by choosing a different path and walking in a big loop around the mountain's base. Our one exception to preparing ourselves with this map study would be for our last hike of the week. As planned, we drove as far as the truck would let us down a dirt road, then got out and hiked for the day. We snacked a lot while hiking this particular route because of the strenuous circumstances, and this ruined our appetites, so we skipped having a proper dinner before going to bed. The following morning we woke up to leave and found it had snowed all night long. A thick layer of snow covered the pine trees, the fields, the roadways, the cabin, and everything else we could see. We were fortunate to find the driveway clear enough to head out. After packing up our things, my dad began to drive the truck down the highway, slowly on the ice. I sat in the passenger seat taking pictures of the scenery. It wasn't long before I saw a red-tailed hawk sitting on top of a tree right beside the highway. On top of the very next tree was a great horned owl. I'd seen hawks and owls and similar birds all my life, but this could never get old. They are always a treat to find, so leaning out the window, I took a picture of each. The next tree had another red-tailed hawk, and looking ahead, I noticed every tree for the next quarter mile had not only an inch of snow on it, but also a hawk or an owl sitting right on top. Then, I saw a tree with something very different perched in its branches. A great black hawk from South America. I didn't know what it was doing in Colorado, but I shouted this up to my dad. He immediately made a U-turn, heading back on the other side of the highway so we could circle around again for a better picture of that unexpected bird. Shortly after turning around, a flock of the most peculiar turkeys I had ever seen were walking along the side of the road. They had many dark colors of spotted wings, and the adults had long gray mustaches drooping from the tops of their beaks and almost touching the ground. The juvenile turkeys had invisible legs, but still left clear footprints in the snow with every step from feet that couldn't be seen. There were about 20 of these strange turkeys in this flock, all of them dancing around and around in a clearing just off the side of the highway. This, to me, was even more fascinating than a great black hawk from South America. I shouted to my dad to pull over, but he wasn't interested in seeing the turkeys. He sped down the highway in that truck so fast I thought we were going to spin out, but his handling of the vehicle was perfect. We turned the truck back around and were once again heading down the highway towards all the snow-covered trees with all the owls and the hawks sitting on top. I still wanted to see the turkeys, but since the two of us couldn't agree, I got out of the truck and began walking down the snowy highway to see the birds I wanted to see, while my dad drove on. He agreed to pick me up after taking some pictures of that great black hawk from South America. So I began to walk down the side of the highway. The snow on the ground was burying my ankles, and the wind was whipping up snowflakes all around me. Though I was now on the wrong side of the road to see the mystical turkeys, because the truck had turned around full circle. I went along looking for a good place to cut across the median, but the median was full of a neighborhood, packed tightly with small houses, and I didn't want to trespass. I knocked on one door, knowing I would have to eventually, and asked the married couple living inside if they would let me walk through their house to access the far side of the highway. The husband smirked at me and replied, "Yes, but only if you can go through my house without getting your dirty snow-covered shoes on my clean wooden floor." Remembering how the turkeys seemed to float with invisible feet, I crossed my legs in the air and floated right through their house. Keeping my legs crossed, I stayed about 3 feet off the ground and floated down the snowy highway to see the strange, spotted turkeys with long mustaches and invisible legs.